What's up, everybody? Welcome to this latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you usually 3 days a week over the digital airwaves of YouTube. Once again, as always, got to take a moment to thank y'all for the growth that we've been experiencing right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. We're on the verge of eclipsing 725,000 subscribers. Plus, we've had more than 1.2 million downloads over the last 3 months over iHeartRadio. So we can't thank everybody enough for the love and support. Keep it coming, and we're going to keep on coming. As I told you on Monday when I interviewed Mr. Patrick Bet-David from Valuetainment from the PBD podcast, I told you there would be a part 2 because part 1 had aired Monday, and obviously he had a lot of interesting things to say just about his personality, his approach, his business acumen, what's led to his success, what his upbringing was like, etc., etc. Well, part 2 is the one that I waited for a lot, because I know he's got a lot of interesting things to say about the world of politics. We've got a president of the United States of America and Joe Biden, who I've been on the record saying needs to step down. I've been on the record stating that we need a new president. I've said that on many, many occasions. Kamala Harris is the vice president of the United States of America. I think right now she'd be a better choice. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, the way that he's made his presence felt over the last several months, I think he looks like a viable choice. Hakeem Jeffries, minority whip in the House, I think he'd be a viable choice. Wes Moore of Maryland, I think he'd be a viable choice, along with various others. I've stated this position. I'm not backing up from it one bit. I think the president of the United States, in the eyes of a lot of people on the left, has done an outstanding job. I think as human beings and United States citizens, we have to take into account his 36 years of service as the United States Senator out of Delaware, the 8 years he spent as vice president, and now the 4 years he's been in office as the commander-in-chief. That's 48 years of service. Thinking that he should step down just because he seems to have lost a step is no shame. He's 81. He's approaching 82 years of age. The reality is that some of us, most of us, lose a step or two at that particular moment in time. But after watching that interview with George Stephanopoulos this past Friday, I don't know what you want me to say. Even George Stephanopoulos has hinted towards a need for him to step down. Certain Democratic officials have been on the record. Publications, whether it be the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Chicago Tribune, the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, etc. Everybody has alluded to the need for this president to step down, knowing that as a backdrop, it would be apropos, in my estimation, to hear from a guy like Patrick Bet-David. We've certainly heard from enough liberals on this show, and we will continue to hear from them as well. But as I've told you all before, we're going to hear all sides. And as long as the conversation is respectful and intelligent, we're going to address it. And we're going to make sure that we listen to everybody and what they have to say, as opposed to engaging in hate mongering or anything like that. We're not doing that, or fear mongering rather. We're not doing that on this show. We're going to listen to everybody. And I wanted to make sure everybody knew that, and that was a big reason as to why Patrick Bet-David was kind enough to sit down with me, because I asked him to, because I wanted to get his perspective. And by the way, even though he doesn't pride himself on being a conservative, he says he's an independent, just like I am. We're not liberals. We're not conservatives. The bottom line is, whether it's independents, whether it's liberals, whether it's conservatives, if you have something constructive and substantive to say, we want to hear from you on this podcast. My audience wants to hear from you. With that being said, that's why part 2 is something that I told you all days ago you needed to look forward to. So here it is, part 2, with yours truly, sitting down with the one and only Patrick Bet-David. Here we go. Okay, everybody, you know what time it is, right? It's time for Stephen A's Weekly Picks. Everybody knows that I live and breathe sports and that I need to be right there in the middle of all the action. And how do I do that exactly? There's only one way. I use Prize Picks. That's what I do. You see, Prize Picks is the largest fantasy sports platform in all of the land with more than 3 million members. Not only that, it's incredibly easy to play. You just choose 2 or more players and then pick more or less on their projected in-game stats. But the best part is you can pick and choose players from any of the sports you love to watch, whether it's Caitlin Clark, Aaron Judge. Hey, even if it's Coco Golf. And if you go to prizepicks.com right now and use promo code SAS, you'll receive a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's right, I didn't stutter. Go to prizepicks.com, type in my initials SAS, and get a first-time deposit match up to $100. And if you go to PrizePicks app, you'll be able to see my picks for today. Football season is right around the corner, so I'm getting started early with my picks for, get this category, total receiving yards for the season. Now let's get to them. Miami Dolphins stud, the cheetah himself, Tyreek Hill, more or less than 1,375.5 yards receiving. It's Tyreek Hill. I mean, it's 1,700, it's 1,800, it's damn near 2,000. This is what he does. 1,375.5 yards for him. Please, I ain't sweating that. Definitely going with more. Let's move on to the next subject. Ain't no reason debating that. Minnesota Vikings stud, Justin Jefferson, maybe the best receiver in all of football. More or less than 1,299.5 receiving yards. I know that Kirk Cousins is gone. I know there's a rookie in J.J. McCarthy there. I get all of that, but Justin Jefferson is still Justin Jefferson. He could take a 5 or a 10-yard pass and take it to the house. I'm not ruling him out. It's a 17-game season. I know it'll be some struggles, but ultimately, I think this brother's going to get more than 1,299.5 yards. I'm going to say more with that brother right there. CD Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys, more or less than 1,325.5 receiving yards. It better be more. Dak Prescott got some stuff to prove. He got a new contract he's looking to get, right? He's looking to get about $57 million a year, especially now that Trevor Lawrence got his bag. Of course, he's going to be throwing the football a lot. And who's he going to be throwing it to more than CeeDee Lamb? If for no reason, other than volume, CeeDee Lamb is going to get 1,325.5 receiving yards. He's going to get more than that. We're going to go with more. Last but not least, Arizona Cardinals rookie Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State. More or less, or the Ohio State, let me correct myself, more or less than 1,025.5 receiving yards. That brother is special. And I don't know if y'all remember this or not. His daddy was special. Marvin Harrison was that dude. And so was this kid. I'm going to go with more. Strictly because of his talents alone. I don't know how much I believe in the Arizona Cardinals, but I believe in this brother. I can tell you that much. 17 games this season, I'm going to go with more than 1,025.5 receiving yards. So we've got Tyreek Hill, we've got Justin Jefferson, we've got CeeDee Lamb, and we've got Marvin Harrison Jr. More in all categories, on all fronts for these brothers. This is what they bring to the table. This is why PrizePicks brought them up, because we like the word more associated with PrizePicks, because we're thinking more money in our pockets when we show you how right we are. I'm going to tell you, it didn't happen when I met you. It happened before I met you. But you've been incredibly instrumental in my personal growth in this one. And I wanted to save this interview to tell you this little story. Because as a black man growing up in the streets of New York City, being subjected to so many things I had been subjected to, I remember when, and I revealed this to you when you interviewed me on your show right down the hall, and I talked about how when I was let go in 2009, and so much of it was internalized on a personal level. I got screwed. I felt this way. I should have had this. How do I wake up one day and have 4 jobs, and at the end of the day, I got nothing, and all of this other stuff. And then, after my mother basically slapped some sense into me, figuratively speaking, by really having me confront my deficiencies, I went about the business of mastering my business. And from that point forward, I've never felt more free. And talking to you years later and talking about business the way that we've talked about business, to me, the greatest thing that has happened to me is that I've been able to capture the ability to depersonalize things. The more knowledgeable I've become about my business, the more I speak the business language to business folks. Once I'm talking about that language, they have no choice but to be compelled to speak to me on that level. And as a result, the personal goes out the window, and all of a sudden it's about numbers, it's about data, it's about facts. And it's depersonalizing. It's a freedom of, the eradication of animosity, the eradication of skepticism, cynicism. Oh yeah, I know you're going to do this, but I know why. Because as a business owner, I might try to do the same thing here. I might have thought about the same thing there. And as a result of that, It's left me free to be able to sit in front of people that I once may have deemed to be a bit shady or whatever the case may be, and have absolutely no problem with them whatsoever, because now I've edified myself even more. Is that what business did for you? Do you believe that's what business can do for the American citizen in this day and age?
You know, it's so amazing. So a couple nights ago, we're having a meeting here with our sales team. And I said, when I was 23, 24 years old, and I'm staying at the office till midnight, and I'm coming in early, and I would tell myself, no one sees this. Do people not realize I'm giving my best? How do you not see me running 6 days a week? I'm not getting the recognition. You're having this conversation, right? I'm somebody. I'm going to be somebody one day, right? And then eventually you realize in life you have two things you're flirting with. One is, what's better, for me to be a man of character or for me to have a strong reputation, right? Like when you think about a president, do you want them to be liked, loved, feared, or respected? I don't care if you're loved. You shouldn't love, the opponent shouldn't love the president. You should probably like him to negotiate with him, but I prefer fear and respect. But those four things, it's not applied to everyone. Like your wife, you want your wife to fear you? No. It's different elements in different places, right? So I used to sit there and listen to John Wooden's, quote about character and reputation. Well, reputation is what other people think about you, but character is who you really are, right? Like focus on your character, not the reputation. I think both matters. So watch what happens. One day I'm in Atlanta, 25 years old. I become a broker in the insurance game, and I'm at Duluth, Georgia, and we're in this training. And we leave the event, and they take our 100 brokers, and we're going to Atlanta for dinner. And if you know that road, it's a 2-hour traffic. It's terrible, coming all the way down from Duluth. In the bus, we're driving. I'm on the phone straight 2 hours, just calling my clients and calling my sales guys. For 2 hours straight, I'm on the phones. Next call, next call, next call. And I don't speak soft. I'm loud, so people are looking at me like, what an annoying guy this is, right? And then we get to the restaurant, we have dinner, and then we come back up. And I'm on the phones again for 2 hours because I'm East Coast. Look at this guy showing off, like as if you work like this all the time. 7, 8 years ago, I get an email from one of the guys that was on the bus. And he says, you may not remember me, but I was on that bus one day when we were driving back, and I was part of the crowd that said, look at this arrogant guy making all these calls, thinking like, those old earpiece stuff that we used to put on, what a show-off you are, like acting like you're better than us. He says, now I realize 20 years later, you weren't showing off. You were actually making calls. And look at us now, right? He's kind of being very transparent about it. So meaning, if you do the right thing and you're showing up with data, you're treating people fairly, of course you're going to create enemies in the way, but enough people are going to realize who you are, and they're going to tell the story behind closed doors. And eventually, all those guys behind closed doors are going to say, listen, man, I don't know, but like the other day we're at the house, and we're having dinner. This was like a couple months ago. And you're like, yeah, he's been with me for 19 years. How have you guys been together for this many years? Oh, when he was chosen as secure, and I said, no, I want him to be the one, not the other one. Remember this whole story that we're having a conversation? Yeah. How long has she been with you? Well, it used to be somebody else, but I said I want her. How long has she been with you? 18 years. What? Yeah. Why are they with you for this long? People don't sit for 18, 19 years if you don't treat them properly. These are the stories that eventually come out where somebody realizes. So if you do your part properly, if you come through and the numbers validates, eventually the entire market's going to sit there and say, look, I don't care how much shit you want to talk about this person. Mm-hmm. He's a real McCoy.
Your podcast is done in a vault.
Yes.
Why?
So I host an event once you're called the vault, because to me, everything in life is trying to crack the code.
Okay.
Right? You're trying to crack the code. And so years ago, I told Mario, I have a book coming out in the month of September, a fiction book I've been working on for 13 and a half years.
Wow.
It's about a secret society that recruits young people and develops them into the future leaders of the world and have access to certain technology that nobody else has, that you can sit there and literally have a 3-hour conversation with people that have been dead for centuries, and you're asking them questions and they're giving you the answers as if they're alive today, having access to today's content and what's happened in history. So take any world leader that's alive, that's dead, and imagine having a combo with them. That's how they shape these great leaders in the future, right? So anyways, that book is coming out in the next few months. The book is called The Academy, but the cover of the book is a vault. Everything to me is in life. All I'm trying to do is, remember one time I asked you a question, when I was interviewing, I asked you a question, I said, so Stephen A., what do you do when you're about to call out somebody and you know you're going to go hard on them the next day? What do you do to still maintain that relationship and do your job without pissing them off, so they keep talking to you if there's other stories you want to get their calls. Do you remember what you told me?
I don't remember.
I'll never forget what you
did I
said.
say?
I've told this story so many times. You said, if I know I'm going to go hard on somebody, I will simply call them and I'll say, brother, don't watch the show tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just don't watch the show tomorrow because I'm going to give my strong opinions. You may want to skip it tomorrow.
Yes.
And I can't
If
help
I
it.
have
gotta
access
do my
to
job.
them, I definitely will.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you tomorrow I'm going to go, Magic's your friend. So you and Magic go way back.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to give your feedback, though, right? Whatever you think about what's going on in the NBA, that may defer what he has to say, right? So I'm just trying to crack the code for what Stephen A. does that's transferable knowledge to me. What can I get from him or from him or from him? If we can keep collecting that, then we put that in our vault. Now, our vault is accessible to so many different formulas in life that's good for marriage, business, life, negotiation, communication. Now my arsenal, now my strengths are getting better and better, and I'm more useful in the marketplace.
What do you believe is the greatest code that needs to be cracked in the United States of America at this particular moment in time?
In the United States of America, well, yeah, we have so much data. I just don't think we want to look at the data. I think we are so much feeling driven that we are more concerned about feeling than actual data. You know how easy, for example, do you know who Jim Simons is?
I do not.
I'll give you one of the greatest stories in the financial services industry ever. Jim Simons is a guy that worked for the NSA for 3 years. He's a brilliant mathematician. He cracks the code on the way to see what Russia is doing, right? 3 years after working for the NSA, they fire him. Why? Because he says, I disagree. Publicly in an interview, he said, I disagree with us going to the Vietnam War. Boom, you're fired. NSA, you're out of here. All right, no problem. He goes and becomes a professor, I think, at Harvard. He goes and dabbles in AI in 1982. This guy named Jim Simons.
In 82.
In 82, Stephen A. in 82. Recruits a guy from MIT. He says, I want to revolutionize the entire financial industry. Creates a company called Renaissance Technology, okay? They developed the software to trade stocks in ways that's never been done before. Everybody said you're delusional. In 1988, he starts a fund called the Medallion Fund, okay? The Medallion Fund, first year without AI, they lose 4%. Next year, they do 55%. Over the lifetime of the fund from 1988 till today, I'll give you a very basic way to see how they destroy the marketplace. If you put $1 in S&P 500 in 1988, it's $42 today. If you put $1 in Berkshire Hathaway with Warren Buffett in 1988, it's $154 today.
Wow.
But if you would have put $1 in the Medallion Fund in 1988, you know how much it's at today?
How much?
$44,000.
Wow.
Annual rate of return of 69%. Net rate of return to their investors of 39%. They crushed it so well with this AI. That's a secret AI. They don't have anybody. They don't give access to anybody. That guess what they said in 1995? They said, we're not taking new money anymore in this fund. You know what they did in 2005? They called all their clients. They said, hey, take your money out. Moving forward, this fund is only for current and previous employees. We're not taking new money anymore. Medallion Fund destroyed it. The founder died earlier this year. It's worth $30 billion. Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger speak so highly about these guys. What did they figure out? Data-driven. They didn't do feelings. They did data. We're too caught up right now in feelings. If we actually looked at data, we'd realize why people are struggling financially. We'd realize why marriages are not working out. We'd realize why so many people are single, not wanting to get married. We'd realize why our birth rate right now is 1.6, the worst it's ever been in the history of America. We'd realize why 2 states in America in the last 4 years have lost $1 trillion of assets under management that left their states. One is California, one is New York. And we have 2 states that have been the beneficiaries of that $1 trillion.
Florida.
One has been Texas, one has been Florida. Data tells everything. With data, you can tell whether your policies are right or wrong because data validates it. But that's not how it's ran today. Everything's about feelings today. So if we went away from feelings, went to data, we'd be able to solve more problems.
Got you. A lot of people say that about our 2 parties. One's more just about numbers and the other's about feelings. People say that all the time, but we'll have that discussion for another day. Everyone knows I demand excellence, and I'm in it to win it. So that's why I've teamed with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, to help turn my sports knowledge into some big-time money. In case you already didn't know, Prize Picks is a daily fantasy app where you choose 2, 3, or even up to 6 of your favorite players and then simply pick more or less on their projected stats. It honestly takes less time than it does for Asia Wilson to dribble up the court and hit that long-range game-winning three-point shot. Every basket, every strikeout, every goal gets bigger each and every single week. So download the Prize Picks app today and join a community of more than 3 million members. And if you do, Prize Picks will match your first-time deposit of up to $100. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. So go to prizepicks.com right now and use code SAS. My initials, of course, in case you didn't figure that out. Just use promo code SAS on Prize Picks to receive a first deposit match of up to $100, and then let the games begin. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's really that easy. Some people, not all, but some people think just putting some money aside is enough to save. Why? When you can do more with it? Not letting your money sit and collect dust. That's real saving. If you could deposit your paycheck on Cash App at no cost and watch your money grow, would you? I'm talking about collecting up to 4.5% interest on your cash. Cash App is offering high yield savings. It pays to get paid on Cash App. Deposit your paycheck on Cash App and you can earn a high yield at no cost. Here's the list of no-cost things provided by Cash App. Interest on your account, 4.5 interest paycheck deposit. Now that's something to think about. Cash App allows you to deposit your paycheck on Cash App and watch your money grow. Stop sitting on the bench with people who can't play and get into the savings game with Cash App. Deposit your paycheck on Cash App and you're not paying a cent in fees on your savings to watch your money grow and grow and grow. That's money, y'all. That's Cash App. Download Cash App from App Store or Google Play Store today. Before I let you get on out of here, and thank you so much for your time, I got to ask you, I'm going to go one by one from some people that you've interviewed. And I want you to tell me what comes to your mind.
Okay.
The late, great Kobe Bryant.
Dude, it was like the coolest moment because right before we hit the stage, he comes in and, he looks at me. We start talking, talks to my wife for 15 minutes, talks to my son for 10 minutes. And he says, so how many people are going to be out there? So 6,000 people. He said, you get nervous before you do these types of interviews? I said, no. He said, yeah, me neither. I said, yeah, of course, you play in front of everybody. And then all of a sudden this lady shows up, and probably in her early 70s, white lady, and they hug each other as if it's his grandma. And they have the most pleasant conversation right next to us. We're watching them. And then we go hit the stage, and we do the interview, and we have the convo together. And we leave afterwards. There was a bond. Like, we actually were communicating. I don't know what it would have turned into, but we were communicating. Now, that was my guy, man. I mean, I'm a diehard Kobe guy. I can't even describe it to you. It was one of my favorite conversations of my lifetime.
Conversations is what I meant to ask about. Not just you interviewing somebody, but other people interviewing you. Bill Maher.
I didn't talk a lot. Even though he interviewed me, he was the one talking.
Club Random.
Club Random. I just sat there. I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is his way of doing therapy. It's his show.
I can't imagine you not talking a lot.
No.
I mean, you're a great orator. I can't imagine.
Did you watch the show?
I
Let me tell you, I
had a good time when I was on there, but I caught a contact high because he was smoking weed the whole time. And I mean, I don't smoke weed, but I mean, you'd have thought I did that day.
The whole time. No, I think I think the last 4 years you got to give credit to him because he's brought up issues that other people don't have the audacity to do.
Right. And as a guy on the left, he's called them out.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if we do another one without any weed involved.
Okay.
There's this guy on ESPN that would say, the weed. I don't know if you've heard this guy or not.
Stay off the weed.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
Roland Martin.
I actually really enjoyed it. I know it's going to sound crazy. I actually really enjoyed talking to Roland.
Because?
Because he's a fighter. And it's what makes it good. Like the guy, by the way, maybe a little bit too much for himself. He sounds like he's super chaotic all the time. But I actually enjoyed having the discourse because it was boom, 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 boom. It was from the moment we got started till the end of the podcast, it was a fight. Beginning to the end. And then once it was done, hey, man, all right, cool, great, boom, it was done.
Joe Rogan.
One of a kind. He's the GOAT, man. Joe, to me, is super likable.
He's the GOAT at this. Everything that we do on the podcast,
Yeah. There's no
he's phenomenal.
question about it. But, like the other day, I went and watched old Joe Rogan interviews. He did an old interview with Conan O'Brien, right? And I went and watched his interviews there to see how he was. And then you're seeing like the way he moves and what, just not sitting still, and how quick he was and working with the audience, and energy was just attractive. He's a grown man now, but you see him at 34 years old. He's always had a very attractive personality, and the way he sold, like that guy could have been a lawyer if he wanted to. He would be one hell of a debater. He would have done so many different things. But when you see where he's at right now, he's having a time of his life. Yeah, he's in a league of his own.
Who haven't you interviewed that you would love to?
Jimmy Carter, but it'll never happen. He's
Jimmy Carter?
Oh yeah, I'm in U.S. because of Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Carter would be one. I think some of the Iranian leaders I would be interested in. I'd be very interested in Putin. I'd be very interested in Bill Clinton. I'd like to sit down with Bill Clinton. Probably above many other names, Bill Clinton would be on that list. I'm just, for whatever reason, I'm interested in a lot of these political leaders.
Barack Obama?
Barack Obama would be fascinating.
Hillary Clinton?
I'd love to talk to Hillary, but Bill more than Hillary.
Because?
Dude, you have a 20,000 name Rolodex. You write all these guys cards saying, I'm running for office and I'm looking for your support. I went to a city, Hope, Arkansas, right? Because there was my wife's father died. My father-in-law died, so we went to Hope, Arkansas. I realized my wife went to the same elementary school that Bill went to, okay? I'll tell you a very weird story while I'm there. I'm asking everybody, how was Bill? We love him. How was Bill? We love him. Why? He was so personal. We would open a door. Was he a womanizer? Yeah, he always liked the ladies. Did you guys have a problem with that? No, but he was always cool with us. Okay, interesting. We're in New York. I'm going to a Yankees game, so I take 40 of my guys. We get the big suite. Boom, rain out. Yankees game's canceled. Here we go. So what do? We go to this, what's this place with the bowling alley with everybody in New York goes to? There's a name for it. It's a big facility, games, all this stuff. What is it called?
I forgot the
What is the name of it?
I forgot the name of it. If it was Philly, I'd say Dave and Buster's, but that
no,
doesn't
it's not.
exist
It's a
in New
map,
York.
but you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. What is it? Chelsea that's what it is. Yeah, Chelsea Pier. That's what it is. So we go there, and Vincent Oshana, you know Vincent Oshana, he's been on the pod before. So him and Tikran are asking me, hey, Pat, who's the one person you'd love to have on the podcast? Stephen A. I say, oh, Bill Clinton. You can count to 5. Both of them say, get out of here. I said, why? He said, he just walked in. I said, what? Stephen A. 5 seconds later. I said, who just walked in? He said, Clinton just walked in. I said, no way. I look back. I'm like, oh, shit. He just walked in.
Right.
This guy is 79, 80 years old. I go up. We have a nice 10-minute conversation together. His Secret Service guys follow the content. You know what he did for 2.5 hours? I could not believe this. This guy goes and shakes everybody's hand he could shake in that place and is listening to everybody. Think about how old he is.
Right.
For 2.5 hours, he's going, oh, so what's your story? Where are you from? Oh, and he's looking him in the eyes like this, right? Wow. I want to know that story. I want to know upbringing. I want to know a few different things about him. I'd want to interview Bill Clinton.
Very last question. Patrick Bet David, Stephen A. Smith, people like us that have our platforms available to us, that reach millions of people, what can we do moving forward to assist in helping to make the world a better place?
Man, I think you're doing it, and it's not easy, right? Because everybody has their own selfish reasons why we vote or we do what we do, okay? I used to look at everybody and I would give them a score, and I would give myself a score, and I would wonder what's the right place to be. And I wrote about it in my latest book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely, the selfish index. Mm-hmm. So what is a selfish index? Is
By the way, your first 2 books, Your Next 5 Moves, Master the Art of Business Strategy, 2021, and Choose Your Enemies Wisely, Business Planning for the Audacious Few, just came out last year. So this is the 3rd book you're talking about.
No, this is the one, Choose Your Enemies Wisely, the one you're talking about.
Okay.
In that book, when I would talk to my sales leaders, sometimes my sales, like to kind of give this example that it makes sense. So one guy's like, I want to build a big agency, and I want to do 10 million a year. I'm like, brother, every lead you ever get, you only want to keep it to yourself. You're selfish. But guess what? You're still a closer. So you're a 90-10 leader. 90% of all the decisions you make is about you. Then I had guys that every lead they ever got, they would give it to everybody. And that guy's a what? That guy's a 10% selfish, 90% selfless. And he didn't set a good example because you have to be hungry to go compete, right? So then eventually, the more and more I looked at everybody on who did well and who didn't do well, the more selfish leaders, 65%, always did better because they had bigger goals they were pursuing. But they had a balance of being selfish and selfless, right? In this position, you get paid, I get paid, there's money on the line. Everybody knows what's going on with where you're at right now with contracts. We all read about it. You know, there's a lot of money on the table for you. You've been busting your tail to get the payday. It's being able to openly speak and willing to have the debate with opposition and giving them the platform and let the audience think for themselves.
Yeah.
When you did your first 2 episodes, when you did your podcast, and you had Cuomo and Bill O'Reilly
Hannity.
Hannity and then Cuomo, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, freaking love it. What?
Yeah.
Seriously? Yeah. That's good. That's good because now I get to sit there and say, like right now, I'm watching your camera guys, right? Most of these guys are from New York. They probably don't agree with me politically. They're probably like disturbed sitting here right now. They're like, I just look at his face, how red it is. Like, there's no way in the world I agree with Pat. Look at his face. Look how red he is. That guy doesn't like me, right? But the fact that you're putting this conversation out there and they're going to have the conversation when they get in their Uber and they leave and they say, F this guy. They're already texting each other. Look at this, right? They're communicating. Mm-hmm. I've been around the block. I freaking love it. The fact that thought is in their minds for them to talk shit to me and debate, we're making progress. I'm very comfortable with that. And you're doing that right now. You got a lot of people that hate you when you say stuff. How could you say what you said about Biden? How could you take a position like that?
O.J. Simpson.
Why would you ever say something like this? And guess what? Let the discussion begin. I'm in the business of making an appointment for the conversation, not in the business of being right. I think you're doing that. And that's why I call you the GOAT.
My man. What an honor and privilege to talk to you, my brother. I appreciate it, my man. The one and only Patrick Bet-David.
Thank you.
It was beautiful. We'll talk again soon.
I look forward to it.
As a matter of fact, I'm quite sure you'll be calling me in several weeks. That's it for the Stephen A. Smith Show, y'all. Talk to y'all next time. Later.